Hello and welcome to the Exponential Potential Podcast, helping you thrive in times of change, with your hosts Claire Oatway and Jennifer Evans, aka ZenJen, along with expert guests sharing with you uplifting, inspiring and insightful stories, groundbreaking, rule-shaking ideas, fresh new exciting perspective and truly transformational tools and top tips, as well as generous gifts for you, our listeners, on an array of topics, all designed to help you thrive in all areas of life. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day, good night to all of our gorgeous audience for Exponential Potential. And very importantly, g'day to my co-host, Jen. Hey.
G'day.
I'm sure somebody somewhere is listening on like International Australia Day.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, is it Australia Day today?
I don't know. At some
point they might, boy. Yeah. I'm sure they'll love that. Good day. I am lovely to be here with you, Claire. And today's episode is one of my favourite subjects, actually. I was thinking about it, yes. And it's all about self-love. What self-love is and what's the consequences when we don't. There's so much wrapped up in this and the way we live our lives. So yes, self-love, ladies and gentlemen, because it is February and we don't care if you're in a relationship, not in a relationship, if you hate Valentine's Day, if you love Valentine's Day. This month and every day actually should be about self-love.
Brilliant.
Hence all the beautiful hearts that we've got.
It's not just we should use these on Instagram. We should just use these as backdrops for our photos generally. It'd be gorgeous. Dear. So let's dive on into this episode, Jen, all about self-love. And you're an award-winning author and transformation coach, and you've done a lot of work with people who feel self-doubt, people who feel unworthy, and so I can imagine that element of self-love is such an important element of the work that you bring to people.
Yes, yeah, and I know when I lacked self-love for a long time, for many years I lacked self-love, and my self-esteem was on the floor. And I had no self-respect. I didn't, I was always, and I'm sure some people will resonate with this, it affects us in so many different ways. It affects us in our love life. And for me, certainly, I was always looking for love in all the wrong places. I was always looking to men to make me feel loved. So I was always looking outside of myself to feel that I was worthy or feel that I was lovable. And my actions and behaviours had completely the opposite effect on me for that. And it was tough, and I did things that I'm not proud of. I hurt friends because I thought that I needed to look outside of myself for love, and that was my sort of focus for many years. It wasn't a good time. Lots of anxiety, lots of beating myself up around how I looked, my image, and you would not know that because I was always outgoing and confident. You would never know unless you actually took some time to realise that, I had no confidence and my self-esteem was on the floor.
So what you're describing there is very different than self-care. And I mentioned Instagram, but go to any socials, there's countless, here's how to self-care. And every single bubble bath brand will talk about self-care, self-love. They're kind of really pushing this, but you're describing something quite different from just having a bath, aren't you?
Yes, and having self-care is really important, and having a bath or going for a massage and looking after yourself in that way is a really good start, and it is important that we do that. But when we have low self-worth, low self-esteem, it creates so many different patterns and behaviors, and not just around looking for love or seeking looking for a relationship so we can feel lovable, but it creates so many different negative patterns that takes us out of our flow, that takes us into drama, anxiety, overwhelm. If we think about some of the behaviors that we do, for example, there's most of our self-sabotaging behaviors, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a while, but most of our self-sabotaging behaviors are because there's lack of self-worth or self-love. When we think about what self-love is, it's about nurturing our souls and our hearts. And yes, absolutely nurturing our bodies. What are we putting in our bodies? Alcohol, smoke, cigarettes, drugs. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we're talking about self-love, and the reflection of self-love is what we do to our bodies, and ensuring that we are nourishing our bodies with what we eat. We're nurturing our bodies with activities, looking at, and trying to ensure that we're physically fit and healthy, appreciating our bodies, because we only have one in this lifetime. And it's amazing, especially when we're younger, because we don't understand the consequences. But as we get older, we sort of, I think it sort of depends, but mid-30s to 40s is, I think, when I started being more mindful of what I'm doing to my body.
Yeah.
And then there's the nurturing our emotions and our feelings. So and our minds, nurturing what's going on in our minds, and taking note of how often we bring ourselves down, we beat ourselves up. So it's quietening the negative stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And I'm so pleased that you brought through that sense of the body as well, for example. And I think that's for women, and increasingly for men, that's when some of the doubt and lack of self-love first starts to appear. Kind of the judgment that you show yourself. It's like, oh, look at that, oh, look at this extra roll here, or this scar, or kind of, I don't quite like the way my hair is this today. And it never comes across as that. It comes across as, blimey, you look like you've been dragged through a hedge backwards, madam. Yeah, that's some of my self-talk. But actually our bodies are remarkable. They enable us to have adventures. They create life, very often as well. It's a remarkable machine, as it were. So when they use the adage, treat your body like a temple, your body is a temple, what you're describing there is almost a ritual of showing that love to your body.
Yeah, and instead of, it's so easy for all of us to focus on how fat we think we are, how skinny we think we are. My nose is too big, my ears stick out too much, all those things. My eyes aren't big enough. There's so many things. But when we stop and we actually start to focus on like you said, the amazing things our body does, all the things that go on in our bodies to keep us alive, is the fact, breathing, our heart beating. It's incredible. And then the things that just by walking, the things that you can do because you can walk, you can dance, you've got arms. If you've got, your arms, you can hold people, you can show them love. There's so many amazing aspects to our bodies. So it's really important to focus on the things that your body can do for you. Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of your mind, I mean, I gave some examples of negative talk around hair. Oh my goodness, I'm hideous because I've got straw-like hair, or my hair's too thick, my hair's too thin, my hair's the wrong color, it's too flat, it's too curly, it's too long, it's too short. It's nobody's perfect in that. But there's some of the examples of the negative self-talk that comes through. But how else can you? How else can you identify either self-love in that mental model, or a lack of self-love, probably more accurately?
I think being mindful of those thoughts is important, and catching yourself when you do it, because we don't realize the damage those thoughts do to us. And they become repetitive, because if you noticed our negative thought patterns, we have the same negative thought patterns every day. We think the same things every day. I think it's 80% of what we thought yesterday we'll think today. So, and our thoughts create our behaviors, and they create patterns, and then that creates our outward life. So by becoming more mindful of what we're thinking, and without the judgment, because it's easy to really judge that if we then beat ourselves up for beating ourselves up.
I'll tell you a story about that in a minute.
It's about noting that thought and asking, well, is that really true? Where's that? We don't need to delve into at this point where that thought is coming from, but each thought we have has got a root. It's got a root cause, and that root cause is generally because we're lacking in self-love, and we don't feel worthy, or we don't feel good enough.
Yeah.
So even though those thoughts might seem shallow, if you dig deeper, it all boils down to the same thing, and that's lack of self-love. So what's your story?
Oh, my story. Well, so a few weeks into burnout, I reached out to somebody I've been working alongside on a project, who was a psychologist. And part of the project that we were part of, we made you go through this life story, and was connecting in your life story to how you lead transformation and so on. So I was catching up with him as a hello and a reach out, and I was still in a really hurt and empty space. And during some of the group sessions that he'd hosted, I'd completely collapsed into tears. And actually, there's a lot of that, which is, why did you allow that to happen for so long? But there's another side. And so I caught up with him, and he says, "You know what, Claire? What's missing is that you haven't learned to self-love." And for me, it was like, what the hell? How dare you? I am not in this position because I don't love myself. I'm in this position because of that. How dare you? I was so angry with him for saying that. But over time, I kind of unpicked it, and it was quite true. But it was, I think it was maybe a little bit irresponsible to chuck in that grenade.
Yes, it is a big grenade to throw in, or you don't love yourself enough. Yeah, but most of us don't, though. It is a truth that most of us don't, and it's because, again, I mean, we are born with love. You know, we are born of light, we are born of love, and we're taught through our lives to sort of forget that, to focus on other people's opinions and what other people think or the way other people behave, and we take all of that on board, and it starts creating those negative stories that we tell ourselves.
Or other people's needs. You know, kind of one of the pieces of my identity is that I'm an elder sister to two brothers, and so therefore kind of they come first and I'm the caregiver. That's the story that I repeated over and over and over and over again. So that capacity to love was projected outwards rather than inwards, and meeting my own needs. And you know, why do you think it is that we see the need for self-love as a kind of selfish activity?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because most of us, a lot of us, and I know I did as well, thought that, well, if I'm loving myself, if I'm putting myself first, it's selfish or it's egotistical. I remember actually when I was at boarding school, I think I was probably 14, and Whitney Houston was on, and about singing about the greatest love of all is the love that you have for yourself. And I had a conversation with one of my dorm mates, and she agreed with Miss Whitney Houston, and at the time I didn't. I remember getting in quite the argument and really getting defensive about it, because, and it's interesting because I hadn't really put much thought to this, but it's really interesting because I remember thinking, well, that's egotistical if you love yourself. If you put yourself first, that's selfish. But if you love yourself, well, that's being a show off. That's being, I had all these things sort of wrapped up in that story, which is where that came from. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of show offy. If you loved yourself, you'd be like a prima donna or something. But when we truly love ourselves, we are able to live such an incredible life, filled with emotional freedom, filled with joy, filled with love and abundance, because self-love and abundance, again, is all about feeling self-love, feeling love, not coming from fear, allowing love to win. We are then in a place to it feels amazing for ourselves, and when we feel amazing, other people feel amazing. When we live that life, we inspire others to do the same.
Yeah.
And the next generation's coming through. So absolutely, it's not selfish, it's not egotistical. It's not one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves and our loved ones, especially when we have children or family.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy, but it's truly allowing love to win opens so much more possibility. It feels so much more expansive, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And kind of, what are the consequences? Can you just expand perhaps on a few more of the consequences or patterns that you see when we lack self-love?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know it certainly creates a lot of drama and obstacles. It creates upset and self-sabotage. So what I mean by all of those is when we aren't loving ourselves enough, we focus on what other people think of us. We worry about what other people think of us or how other people behave. We focus on their opinions of us or their perceived opinions, because a lot of the time we don't know somebody's opinion, we just guess it. We assume it. And that then takes us out because we're too busy focusing on what other people think. When we don't feel filled with self-love, we're looking, as I said before, we're looking outside of ourselves for people to validate us. We are running around people pleasing. So bending over backwards, trying to please everybody because God forbid somebody doesn't like us. Or we want to be seen as the good girl or the good guy. Again, because we want to be liked, because we're looking outside of ourselves for somebody to validate that we're worthy and that we're lovable.
Yeah.
We're also, because sometimes we worry so much, we put so much emphasis on what other people might think, it really holds us back on what we, living our potential, living our exponential potential, living out those dreams. So we might have a dream or an aspiration, but because we don't feel good enough, because we don't have self-love, we then go for that dream because we're not, oh, well, I don't deserve that. Some of our relationships, in fact, a lot of our relationships, when we have crappy, unfulfilling relationships, it's usually, not always, but a lot of it is because we don't love ourselves enough. And when I say we take things personally, somebody might say something and we might take that on. Let's just think of an example. So when I was at school, I really disliked maths, and I had a really awful, crappy math teacher. And I was struggling with a particular question, and he just called me stupid in front of everybody because I couldn't understand how to work this particular math subject, this particular math equation out. And so I carried that with me. I'm stupid, I'm not good enough. And it had nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. This math teacher was a real bully. He was clearly unhappy in his job. And he was frustrated because he couldn't teach me in a way that I understood. As soon as I went into the workplace and I was in sales, and forecasting and percentages and things like that all became really, really important, I could see it from a practical point of view, and I had no issue with maths. And that happens to us all the time. Somebody will say something to us, or name calling and bullying. That is never about us. It's about that other person's opinions, insecurities, the need for them to feel safe.
Yeah.
And they usually have, and a bully will always lack self-worth and self-esteem.
And what way you're taking me now is just to so many relationships where the other person will know and will control kind of the switch on and off of affection or love or respect, and it continually undermines that sense of that lack of self-love. Gaslighting, for example, is a really abusive approach to say, no, you don't get any of my attention. No, you completely, no, you're wrong. Is no. And again, it feeds into that aspect, I suppose. Is that something that you find?
Yes, yeah, and also, there's a lot of lack of self-worth and self-esteem. Jealousy can become a big issue as well, or lack of trust becomes an issue.
Yeah.
And that's not just in our love relationships. That could be in any relationship. That could be in our friends or at work.
Yeah.
And also with ourselves. So, if somebody's a bit late, for example, on a date, I know we're going to be talking a lot more about relationships in our next episode with Claire leading that. But when you think about when somebody's late or they don't message you, especially when you're younger, we take that into our adult life as well. We immediately go to that place of I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Why haven't they messaged me?
oh, they can't be thinking about me, I'm not important enough. So again, we're putting the emphasis on external instead of taking responsibility for it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And self-sabotage, when we don't feel like we're deserving or worthy, there's so many things that we don't do because of that. Oh, what if I fail or make a mistake or make a fool of myself? There's so many areas that when we worry about what others people think, or we allow somebody else's actions or behaviors to become more important than our own personal dreams and aspirations, it just keeps us stuck and going around in circles.
Yeah. So do you think that's why self-love is so important?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, I know we're all, we judge a huge amount. We judge ourselves, but then we judge other people. And that puts up a barrier between us and that person. That's not letting love in. That's protecting ourselves and putting up all those barriers, so that we can't be hurt or somebody can't know us that well. So we sort of keep them at arm's length. And we're worried about being seen, being who we truly are, being vulnerable. So we hide behind all these things, and we think we want to belong in a group. Again, we're looking outside of ourselves to be accepted. Mm-hmm. So we mold ourselves into something that we think people want. But the problem with that is, if we do that, then those aren't our people. And those relationships become difficult, and create stress, anxiety, and struggle.
So how do we create self-love? How do we break the pattern?
That's a good question. Oh, and just before we go on to that, just briefly, the other things that we do are comparing ourselves to other people. Stop that right now. Stop it. We have no idea what's going on in their world. They have their path, you have yours. So as you say, you do me, you do you, and let them do them.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about boundaries in another episode as well. But because we want to please people, because we don't want to let anybody down, we do an awful lot of feeling obligated or guilty, especially with our family. Oh, I need to do that because they've asked me. I need to prove that I have value. So that's another episode. That's a whole other episode around boundaries and things. But I just wanted to mention it in this one.
Yeah.
And it all becomes so exhausting and overwhelming, doesn't it? When we're constantly pleasing people, trying to prove ourselves, striving for perfection.
But what you're also providing is actually that the light at the end of the tunnel, that there is a choice, and ultimately there are some things in this life you can control.
Yes,
and other people see you as not one of them.
Yeah, and I'll say it, and I'm sure you've heard it as well, Claire. What other people think of you is absolutely none of your business. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It really, really, truly, truly doesn't matter. And if you want to live a life that has that freedom and fulfillment and reach your potential, although you never reach your potential because that's forever evolving, that's why it's exponential potential, that is just a distraction. That's just a way of self-sabotaging yourself, worrying about what other people think. So it's none of your business. If that's what they want to think, that's entirely up to them.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we can do to help create self-love, one is to stop caring about what people think. And that, I know that's easier said than done. It took me a while to do that, to stop caring about what other people think. healthy boundaries. So learning how to say no to people when you're overstretched. So that's about putting your needs, and that's a hard one. That's a really tough one, to say no to people and to put your needs, to make a choice that your well-being and your alignment is more important than saying yes to somebody else.
Yeah.
And not from a selfish point of view. And as I said, stop making other people's opinions more important than your own personal well-being and vibration. You know, so if you want to create abundance and you want to create a fulfilling life, you have to take care of your vibration. You have to increase that frequency of feeling good. And you can't feel good when you're worrying about what other people think of you, or you're trying to strive for perfection, or you're running around like a headless chicken trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
Treat yourself like a best friend. Not necessarily a family member, because there's certain interesting dynamics around families. But, you know, think about how you treat your best friend and the kind words that you say to your best friend. So treat yourself like you would your best friend. Be kind, be gentle, have some compassion for yourself, for the journey that you have had so far. And then focus on the people that really truly love us. You know, not necessarily our parents or our brothers and sisters, because again, there's some strange dynamics around that. But look at who your sort of cheerleaders are, who your people that support. Look at your people. You know, the people that support you, the people that are there for you, the people that are there with unconditional love. Look at how they react and interact with you.
Yeah, and it's ironic, isn't it, on that aspect? Because when you're lacking in self-love, when you are so busy rushing around, that's exactly the time that you are too busy to connect to those people that remind you how special you are.
Yes. Yes. So making time, not just saying, oh, I'll wait till, you know, we're all busy. Life always throws stuff at us, no matter what. You know, we can't control that, but we can make a choice, and we can make time for ourselves. We can make time to do things that we enjoy and love doing, to make time for those friends and have some fun. So, yeah, and also making time and creating space, you know, going out in nature and things like that, because we are of nature. And we are so deeply synchronistic with nature, you know, symbiotic with nature. And when we look at nature, there's such a perfection and balance about it, a natural perfection and a natural harmony and balance. And we are of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we think about who we really are, that we are a being of love and light, and we are a unique, there is nobody else in the world, there is nobody else like you. There is nobody else that can bring to this world what you can bring. And we all have incredible gifts, abilities, superpowers. So, you know, we spoke about superpowers in the last episode with Jennifer Huff. And we mentioned alignment earlier. So we did an episode on alignment a couple of episodes ago. So it all ties in very nicely, doesn't it, Clara?
Almost like we planned it.
It's almost like we planned it, yeah. So yeah, just create space for you and start saying yes to the things that bring you joy. And self-care is part of that, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and gratitude is huge. You know, start really appreciating what you have already, what is, you know, that's just there for you.
Yeah. And welcome.
So, and just a couple of other things that are really simple. Start accepting compliments. You look lovely today, Claire. You look really nice.
Vibrant. But kind of, can I just tell you a story? I've been in that there London at a meeting.
That there London.
And my dress was the colour of this pink. So, yeah. There's no missing me when I'm walking a room. But it was, it's really nice, warm, vibrant colour. And, so attracted comments and compliments. And then you kind of go, oh, well, this, River Island for £20, that's all I paid. And it's like, why? Just accept it and go, you know what? Yeah, I feel amazing in this colour.
Yes, and a simple thank you.
Yeah,
isn't someone compliments you. What, this stupid haircut?
Yeah.
Or this whole thing. Oh, I just got it from a charity shop, and exactly that. or you just kind of diss it. You don't. So notice when people compliment you, and say thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
And talking of clothes, a friend of mine is an amazing stylist, and I just caught something the other day on we might have her on actually, and she talks about wearing the dress. Wear what's in your wardrobe and don't stop saving it for a special occasion. Wear it and feel good.
Yeah.
And there's one thing, because I was just going to say, because you deserve it. And while I was talking about nature, I just wanted to say, we make such a big thing of being worthy and not being worthy. But worthy isn't even a thing. A flower doesn't feel, I'm not sure if I've said this in another episode, but a flower doesn't need to feel worthy to receive sunshine. Yeah. So, we just are. We're born worthy. We're born deserving. We shouldn't even need to be having this conversation.
It's almost like when we were given the gift of being self-aware, we automatically started the self-doubt and the self-judgment. but kind of, I just want to stick with the fashion again, because I don't know if you've got this as another tip, but especially if you're working at home. I did this once and it was amazing. I get to go to balls and dinners because get invited by my husband, and so nice. I have 3 beautiful red dresses, and they are heavily sequined, absolutely gorgeous, and I feel fantastic when I wear them to the ball. But if I'm having a tricky day and want to raise my vibrations and I'm working at home, I'll work in a ball gown. I will put it on.
Love that. Love it.
I will sit there and be like, oh, I feel like a queen. This is just, And then the other thing, as you know, last year I went on holiday to Sorrento, and there's an amazing, kind of Italian fashion is gorgeous, but there's a Capri shop, and they have such vibrant, outrageous summer colours. And when you put these on, again, it lifts you, but it also takes you back to a time or back to a place, and you kind of catch it and go, wow, I really love that. I love that about you. I love I love this on me. Little ththings like that.
And you wear it for you. Yeah. It's the same with sexy lingerie, isn't it? Where you wear it for you, wear it to feel good. Because it does. So even those things are sort of very surface, they do have an impact. Take care of your hair. Go and get a really lovely cut. Have it coloured, or go out and buy a lovely dress or a lovely outfit. Those, even though they're on a different level, it still helps lift you and helps you feel good.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's from within. But they kind of go quite well together, don't they? external and internal. But on a deeper level, it's making the choice to start caring enough about yourself, to start looking at the things, the miracle that you are, because every single one of us is a miracle, and all the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, millions of billions of things that have to happen for you to be here, for you to have been created and born.
For sure. And I think one of the reasons why, for me, exponential potential is such a strong title for our podcast, and one of the things that I think we have in common is when we work with people, when we look at people, we can see that beauty, that genius, that opportunity, that it kind of all of those strengths, all of those amazing things that come together inside that person. And then we work with those individuals to help them to kind of shed the obstacles, to start to lift up. But you're much more in your role than in my role, because you go kind of to that deeper level. But it must be so rewarding kind of when you and so visible when you see women and men shift to love themselves more.
Yeah, it is massive. And you see someone go from feeling self-doubt and overwhelmed and anxious, because it does impact, it does create overwhelm and feeling frazzled and exhausted, and seeing somebody start to really blossom and flourish as they start to believe in themselves and let go of all those negative stories and patterns that they've been carrying around. And something that I notice, even though sometimes we know that what we believed as a child wasn't true, we continue to behave in the way that we think it is true. We continue, and until we stop and become aware, and most of us do need help and do need guidance in that realm. Yeah. Especially when you've been stuck for a long time, or you're a bit lost and confused, you're not sure what direction to take. You know that there's more. You want to live that life that's full of freedom and fulfillment and joy, but you're not sure how to get there. That's my forte. That's what I love to do, is help women find themselves, love themselves, and have the courage and the confidence and the clarity to be able to, live their dreams and live their aspirations. Yes.
So what's one of your favourite ways for you, Jen, to demonstrate to yourself, to nurture yourself?
It's a really good question. I think now in this time of where I am now in my life, I think it's giving myself permission to take the time that I need to feel more than balanced and calm, but to really take care of my vibration and my alignment. Because by making that a priority, that's the biggest yes to self-love that I can say. Yeah. And nothing, whatever's happening in my life, whatever's going on around me, is to make that choice that my frequency, my vibration is the most important thing, is the only thing to nurture and to look after.
And it's the thing that feeds into everything else.
Yes.
Into everybody else around you.
Yeah, absolutely. It feeds into Dominic, my wonderful, amazing partner. It feeds into Poppy, our dog, to our friends, to my family and loved ones. So it's far, far from selfish. And it allows me to do what I do. It allows me to do this, because if we were worried about what other people thought of us and making a fool of ourselves, we wouldn't be doing this. So we wouldn't be able to be here who we came here to be. We wouldn't be able to contribute in the way that we really want to. Yeah. And have the energy to do it. So yes.
And also have
making that choice.
The purity and the generosity, of course, we keep trying to increase our impact and spread to benefit people, but that's not there. We want to kind of channel this sense of love and light to people around us as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it feels so good.
Yes, and it's contagious, that energy. It's contagious. You don't have to be sat in the same room or in the same country to feel it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, love is all you need.
And if you need an excuse to carve out time to kind of nurture yourself, hide away somewhere and listen to our podcasts. There's plenty to choose from.
There is.
Like, I've got to listen. And whether you do listen to us or not, we're holding the space for you.
Yes.
Happy to
helping you feel inspired and uplifted, and to come into your own and help you, reach that exponential potential.
So tell me, kind of, how can people find out more, particularly around this topic of self-love, and might perhaps explore working with you around this?
Yes. Well, I've got a really lovely document, actually. Well, it's 10 top tools to release struggle, to transform struggle and stress. And it is connected to self-love, because just by doing this and putting your alignment and your vibration first is a massive step towards self-love and releasing the self-doubt and all those things. And that link will be in the chat box. And it's 10, as I say, it's very, very easy, simple tools and techniques and practices, from morning rituals and evening rituals to how to stay energized through the day, to how to find that calm, that peace. It's saying yes to you, really. So the link's there. Also, I offer a free coaching and discovery session. So if you're fed up and you've had enough of that lack of self-worth, and allowing that to drive your story, allowing that to drive your life, and you want something new and different, and you want that freedom and fulfillment and that joy and love and abundance, reach out to me. It's a really juicy session with me. You will walk away with clarity. You'll feel inspired and uplifted. We'll do some powerful guidance in there, a future activation maybe, if you're up to it, to see what the possibility of what your future looks like. So I highly recommend that's in the links below. So if I've resonated with you, reach out, connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. Even send me an email to say hello and share some things or ask some questions.
And for all those listeners out there, that do take up that offer. I have the delight of recording regularly with Jen, and there's so much openness and love and generosity and purity, as we've said, and it comes through because of this really strong foundation. And I'm looking at you now, and I know that we're in an outrageous pink background, but you are positively glowing. There's this inner sense of calm that radiates, that can only really truly radiate from somebody who it comes from that place. It comes from that place of wholeness and fullness. I know that Maybelline and L'Oreal and all the others will complain about this, but a good lipstick or a good blusher will only take you so far. And actually, kind of the radiance that comes from self-love, self-acceptance and self-gratitude is But that's free, guys. That's absolutely free. So by all means, do dive into that hugely generous gift from you, Jen.
Thank you, Claire.
And do you just want to share your website if people are
yeah, the ZenJen.com.
ZenJen.com.
TheZenJen.com.
Yeah, fab. Well, yeah, we have timed this episode for February, and so if you're watching as planned, it doesn't have to be as planned, but if you're watching as planned, you'll know that it's been really important in this month of February, this month of love, for us to start off with self-love.
Mm-hmm.
To really start there, and so much more kind of slots into place when you come from there. Yeah.
Yes, and you're going to be talking about relationships next week.
Yeah, I'm going to be.
Yes,
and
episode 20.
Balancing between relationships that you have at work and relationships that you have at home, and how the two, have got more in common than you think.
Yes, yeah, and there's so many people that struggle with relationships at work as well, isn't there? So yes, I'm really looking forward to that interview.
Fabulous.
And yes, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. It was our pleasure being here.
And of course, if you like what you've learned, or if you want to share some of these elements with somebody that you know in your life that you care about, that you think, could just do with a little bit of a hug on YouTube. Yeah, we need to change the name. We are the YouTube hug. But if you feel that kind of somebody in your life, is struggling, is rushing around, is not feeling special, please do share these episodes with your friends. Encourage them to subscribe, because we are just offering so much goodness through what we do. So
yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. And if you've enjoyed it, please click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and feel free to share. Join us for our next episode of the Exponential Potential Podcast. Ignite your potential and thrive in times of great change.